Are you stressed and filled with anxiety like I am? Maybe in a bit of pain from that car accident you had a few years ago? Well, the sponsor of today's episode, Hempville CBD, has us covered. They have the highest quality products created by chemists and doctors. Hempville carries everything from CBD to THC dispensary grade without those despicable dispensary prices. Order your Delta 8, 9 edibles and vapes along with the THCA flower and get free shipping when you spend $50 or more at hempvillecbd.com. Check out the link in the description for more details.
Welcome to the Filmistines, the double feature podcast. Join us as we unravel the interwoven experience of the continuous conversation of cinema. Take part in pairing movies with their cursed counterpart, movies that share DNA, or even pairing questionable duos by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/Filmistines. We offer tiers at the $1, $5, and $20 level, where the $5 tier will grant the ability to request films to further this discussion. So grab some popcorn, sit back, and get ready to join the 100-year conversation. This is the Filmistines, where movies are more than just entertainment, they're an experience.
They're an experience.
All around you. And welcome back to another episode of the Filmistines. Thank you for tuning in today. I am joined today by my insectoid friend, Lucy.
Hello, everyone.
You can join us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for brand new episodes of The Filmistine. Some recent episodes include Netflix's new David Fincher cash grab, The Killer, our 35 important films that we'd like to cover on the podcast list. That's a really cool episode. Go listen to that. Our 2024 most anticipated films, our first episode of our new topical series, and then our coverage on the new Hunger Games prequel, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snacks.
I've been waiting for that.
You did that intentionally?
Yeah.
Did you mean snakes?
Yeah. Not snacks.
Do they even have snacks in Hunger Games world?
I bet you they don't.
What's the world called?
Panam?
That's right. It's
Panam?
that P word.
Whatever.
Okay.
However you say that.
Okay. Well, today's a very interesting episode.
Another interesting episode?
Yeah,
Man.
they're all interesting, aren't they? Today we are discussing Neil Blomkamp's very first feature film.
Oh, this was his first feature film?
First directed feature film, yes.
Cool.
And of course, we are all familiar with him with the recent Gran Turismo, decent watch. But today we are discussing 2009's District 9. Sort of iconic to the era. I feel like it was kind of a big deal at the time.
Was it?
I feel like it was.
Yeah, I don't know.
Did you watch it when it first came out?
No. I didn't watch it when it first came out. I think we got it on DVD a few years later, and that's when I watched it.
Did you love it right away?
Yes, I loved this movie when I watched it the first time. It was something very different, for sure. Especially than what I was used to watching at that age.
Yeah, I think this is the same year or the year after you watched your first serious film, so-called serious film, Iron Man.
Well, I didn't watch it in 2009. I didn't watch it when it came
out.
Yeah.
Okay, it's true, yeah. That's funny, though.
I know we got it on DVD a few years later, so probably like 2011 or something.
Okay. I don't think I've ever seen this movie after watching it with you. I have seen the beginning. I remember the beginning, and I guess I was not hooked. Like, especially when I'm by myself and I'm watching a movie, if I don't get hooked immediately, I'm just going to turn it off.
Yeah, that's fair.
And so the beginning was familiar, but when things started to roll out, I was just like, I don't think I've ever seen this before. This is something, this is not familiar in any way whatsoever. And I'm happy to report back. This is another one. This is such a nebulous thing to say, but this is the baseline of how good film should be. It's a very good film, and this is where all films should start at least. They shouldn't even be made if they're not this good. So I didn't love this movie, in other words, but I do like this movie quite a bit. It's very fun. It's a little weird editing wise and shooting wise. I don't love that, and I know that's just the risk of sort of found footage movies. This isn't a super set found footage styled movie. At least after the first 20 minutes, it kind of loses that flair, I feel like. And then we jump to these weird documentary style little 5-second to 10-second bits here and there with, people talking to the camera. And it's just a little bizarre. It doesn't seem to embrace what that intro kind of set, which is fine, I guess, because it still retains some of the choppy editing and cinematography you might expect from a found footage movie, which sells the aliens and the situation a little more, and I like that a lot. So I thought it was cool. I'm very glad you recommended this. I think you recommended this recently. I think this was on our top 35 important films, wasn't it?
I think so.
Or you mentioned it in that episode at least.
Yes. Something.
Yeah.
I know I brought it up.
Very recently.
Yes.
So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So tell me from your hip, how you feel about this movie today with your new Shinigami eyes.
My Shinigami eyes?
Shinigami eyes.
Yeah, I still like this movie. I still liked it a lot. Not bad for a sci-fi film. It's there. Sci-fi films tend to suck, along with comedy films. It's hard to find a good one, and this is a good one. I really like the found footage-esque that we have here. I don't think we completely lose it throughout the film. Yeah, we are no longer filming in what looks like handheld camera, towards the later half of the movie, which I don't know. I doubt they're actually filming with a handheld camera, right?
They're filming probably with I think they call it a jib, where they're wearing the camera basically.
Okay.
So it can give a handheld feel. But they could also be running around with the camera. That is totally possible. The cameras are heavy, so I don't know about that.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, I don't think we completely lose it. Yeah, we're no longer filming like that, like they're holding one, but
yeah, we kind of take on this almost like helicopter cinematography at some point. Like these weird angles, weird bird eye angles and stuff.
Yeah, we're still following him in a way. It's almost like they gave us the, found footage interview style of meeting these characters. And then we kind of got like a where are they now kind of feeling to it. And it sort of reminds me when movies put a TV in the movie and you're watching the news or you're watching something on the TV but here's back to the film. That's kind of the vibe it gave me. Like, here's your interview of Wickus, whatever his name is. Here's your TV news footage of him. Mm-hmm. And then here he is now, what he's doing, where he's at. So I kind of like that.
Yeah, it's definitely totally different than anything I've ever seen before or after 2009. I don't think there's any film that kind of fits that bill either.
No, if they're doing the found footage thing, they're completely embracing it, and the whole film is shot like a found footage film, or not. It gave me the Office vibes for sure.
I wish they could have embraced that a little bit more, especially in the beginning, where we got some more of these interviews, where they set up this character and doing something really radical, like having sex with one of these things, and
nope.
That's what they said.
What?
And then in the newscast and stuff.
Oh, okay.
And then we see it all play out. And then we get the true story of this character. So it's like a mix of found footage, documentary style versus proper, normal, I guess, cinematography. But they kind of interspersed the documentary little interviews throughout the movie, kind of commentating on his character and stuff. And I wish we could have just got that the first 6 or 7 minutes of that all in one chunk, several people setting the mood up, and then we're like, who the fuck is this guy? What did he do? And then we see it all play out. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Instead of, I don't know, they felt kind of awkward. Like we see the story playing out. We know how he's becoming mutated. He didn't have sex with one of these things. It's like, but they could have let us think that for 15 minutes, but they didn't. Yeah, I too am not a big fan of sci-fi in general. Maybe even less so than you, because I'm not even a fan of sci-fi books, and that's true for comedy too, comedy movies. But I feel like this is a very grounded sci-fi movie simply because it feels very familiar in the history of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
So it really kind of, the prawns could be anything. They could be
Right.
anyone at any point in time throughout the last 5,000 years of humanity, and I really like that about it. And then if you just read a little bit about this movie, you'll know that it was inspired by
the District 6 events.
just crazy South African political affairs of just crazy degrees of segregation.
Yeah.
And that's awesome as far as like this movie kind of exposing that. It doesn't really make fun of it, I would say, but it makes fun of it on an absurd level, I guess, by just nature of how far we have to take this thing that's happened and make it look alien when it actually is something that happens in your backyard kind of thing. So so I really like the sci-fi kind of obscurity of it. Why does this work as a sci-fi movie over some others?
Yeah, it's not super silly for one. Yeah, it does have these silly moments, like him having theoretical sex with one of these prawns.
Yeah, his character is just kind of funny, but it's like he's really funny actually, because he's just so inept.
Yes, but it's still not ridiculous kind of funny like some sci-fi films tend to be. They do a great job with these prawns, with these aliens. They look cool. They look really cool. And their spaceship, their weapons, all their stuff doesn't look crazy. It doesn't look I don't want to say fake. It doesn't look it just doesn't look silly.
Yeah, that is a weird funny risk that sci-fi runs into. I don't know what that is, where I really don't know much about Star Trek, but when I see stupid ass sci-fi stuff, I'm just thinking that looks cheap in CW and Star Trek.
Yes.
And I don't get that impression either. I don't know if that's just because they don't focus on some of the devices and everything, but even like the ship, it looks really crazy. It looks very cool. I love it.
Yeah, nothing's got crazy LED lights.
Yeah.
Nothing's beeping or talking in voice command or some of those sci-fi technology tropes.
Yeah, and you never get very close to the ship.
Yeah, exactly. And even though they have been on Earth for the last 20 years, so maybe you could say that they don't have the technology that they typically have in their world. That's why nothing looks like that. But it works for what they did. And we get a little bit of their technology when they go around evicting them, and we manage to see some of their houses, and we manage to see some of the like local African gangs and some of the weapons they've collected from the prawns. And even then, those don't look super ridiculous. I think one of the guns that Wickes, and I hope I'm saying his name right, one of the guns that he managed to confiscate from the gang leader, whatever, the dude that liked to eat the prawns, it did look a little bit silly there for like a split of a second, a fraction of a second, but then it got lost. It got lost in the scene, the dirt, the grittiness of this film, and I appreciate that. How did you feel about the weapons?
Yeah, I thought the weapons were fine. I can't really say cool or anything because I don't really care. That stuff doesn't really speak to me, but it didn't bother me.
Gotcha.
So that's a good sign. And I did read that I don't know what weapons, but some of these weapons were fitted out for a Halo movie at the time.
Which
is
cool.
Bizarre because apparently Peter Jackson was on board to make a Halo movie at this time with Neil as director, and they, surprise, couldn't get a feature film out of that because there's just, it's just, some things are hard to turn in the movies, as we have learned time and time again.
Yeah.
You usually need to have a proper vision and not trying to fit something to something else, right?
Yeah.
So I was wondering, I was trying to look back in my mind at like what if that felt kind of Halo-y, which I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that.
Did you play Halo?
Yeah, I played Halo.
A little bit?
The first 5 Halos I played, yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's a lot of it.
Pre 343 taking over. Yeah, that's the new studio that makes Halo.
Ew.
I liked the slight introduction of the critters, the prawns, where we see them almost vampire like, all huddled together in the ship. That's like the only time I guess we are close to the ship, and I like that they're just like shriveled up in there, and it's really scary almost. It feels like that one scene from I Am Legend where Will is like in a subway or something area underground, or in like a parking garage or something, I'm not sure, and he comes across them all just huddled together during the day.
Yeah.
At night, it's just like, it's a nice visual. A little tropey, I guess, but for at least a horror movie, which just isn't. I guess it might be to some people. I'm not sure. It doesn't have any jump scares, so it's, I don't know. It's got to have at least a jump scare, right, to be a horror movie, at least one.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
But I loved where they were at, where they forced the prawns to be. I saw that was actually housing for people who were being evicted at the time of filming.
Oh, wow.
And so it's very authentic.
Super authentic.
It's fucked up. They were being relocated. The people who were in the where the filming was happening.
Mm-hmm.
Not because of the filming, but just, that's all. Apparently that's of the area where Neil's from, in that area of South Africa.
Yeah, and I was just about to comment on what a fabulous job they did with the set designs, but
yeah, it's all pre-existing.
Apparently,
almost all of it was, except Christopher Johnson's house. His house was built out, of course, because they had to go in and fucking, make destructible walls and stuff to get the crew in there and everything. So
and
they
get
had to build that out.
the hidden lab underneath.
Mm-hmm, yeah. That was probably on a soundstage. That probably wasn't even under there. It wasn't even in the area.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, but I loved that there was that ship under there, under his house, under his shack. The beginning of this movie reminded me a lot of Troll Hunter, with giving us this texture to the world and lore. And we slowly get that all the way up to our main character's exposition into, the slums of the prawns, to evict everyone one by one, which was hilarious too.
That was a whole hilarious bit.
Yeah, I like that a lot, because it brings a weird flavor that you just don't see in alien movies. Like, it feels like this is if the alien species who crash landed here, which I love that they just ended up here. Like it's just really no rhyme or reason. You can let your imagination, I guess, kind of fill in those pieces. And I guess on that note, I love that there is no solution to their problem either, the prawns.
Yeah.
Where Christopher Johnson is able to get out, but he may not be able to come back for generations. The ones that all the present prawns are probably going to be totally wiped out by the time he gets back, or by the time his kid gets back, or whatever. However, their ship moves through time space, I guess. But I liked that the humans did segregate the prawns, because it feels very familiar, and like that's if the prawns weren't violent when they got here, they probably would be quarantined off from the human world and supervised and stuff.
Yeah, that's all humans know how to do.
Yeah.
That's all humans know what to do.
And so I was just like, this is so cool. And it's, I don't know, it'd been maybe kind of cool to see some of the timeline of that, like where they treated a little better in the early days, and then people became more conspiratorial and questioning of, their motives and stuff, and how they kept themselves, because of course, they put them in the slums, and they don't have any resources to kind of gentrify the slums. They stay kind of slummy and gross, and don't have really any form of, we don't go out of our way to, educate or to communicate with these things. So there's just this bigger and bigger divide that happens between humans and the prawns. And so you just get basically a more racist kind of divide between the two, or at least going one direction, because as we saw, the prawns are pretty gentle.
Yeah.
They could be very aggressive and maybe get their way in a lot of ways if they really wanted to. So I like that.
Yeah, I think that's also one of the things that distinguishes this from a typical sci-fi film, that all the aliens are always so much smarter than us. They're always like maybe on some sort of level respected for their intelligence and admired even with how far they've come, or whatever world they're in. They're always super smart or have the most advanced technology. But here they're treated like minorities, like how we treat minorities now, which is funny because they are super smart. And you don't see that a lot. I mean, in the Alien franchise, we're just trying to kill them, really.
They're just violent beasts.
Yeah.
And then movies like Arrival, they're these, interdimensional beings that just, it's not possible really for us to understand their intellect.
Mm-hmm.
They're idolized,
Yeah. And then here we have Wickes learning how to speak their language. I mean, he knows what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
And even Christopher Johnson knows what Wickes is saying. Like they've learned each other's language, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, they're totally humanized.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that their language sounds like it could be a language of Earth too. It doesn't sound like it's too far away from, an old maybe primitive language we've had.
Yeah.
Or that we still have.
I also really liked that they're called prawns.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was very clever. And apparently these prawn-looking things are considered a pest in Africa. Like, that's a real thing. So that's where they got that name from. So I thought that was fun.
That's cool. I like that. They look like they're like a mix between whatever crustacean and a grasshopper cricket thing. Yeah, it's very cool. Again, you would imagine something that's this disgusting looking, basically, especially on this scale, to be violent.
Yeah.
To be a threat. And they're really not. It does a really good job, I guess, othering something, almost on a Frankenstein level, right? Of being afraid of it because you don't understand it. Or I should say even maybe a zombie level, a George Romero kind of level of, we have a bunch of these things that we just don't understand, and we can't get away from them, at least in this sense, politically and on the TV. So we other them to the nth+1 degree, to a point that they're being forced out of city limits or out of the county or whatever, so they don't have to look at them. What do you think of when our main character, when he started to mutate and his human brethren basically just wanted to kill him to study him, and then the prawns were curious and more than happy to work with him? Well, maybe not more than happy, but they were much more tolerant and not just, they had every reason to be just as curious and to kill him and to study him, right?
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. His whole transformation. You knew once he got sprayed by whatever was in that device, something was going to happen. He was going to die, or he was going to, I mean, I don't know. The last thing you think is he's going to mutate. But that was pretty cool. I like that he started out with the arm, and then towards the end of the movie, we see one of his eyes get very animated, which was really cool. I think that was probably my favorite scene where they make him test out the weapons. That was pretty awful to watch, and so cool at the same time. That, instead of helping him out, they're going to take advantage of the situation. And, finally we have a human who can use these weapons that they probably have been trying for years to use themselves. And yeah, that's so sad that the prawns were not fighting back and just, being used the way they were. And although it's a very simple premise of him just wanting to be back into his original human form, I do like that now it's this personal dilemma to either go back to being a human or what he thinks would happen versus helping out, Christopher Johnson go home. And it was just really clever on that's how they chose to build the tension for the audience when, we probably knew the whole time that he wasn't going back.
Yeah, but you still have in the back of your mind, because these are proper aliens in some way because they can travel interdimensionally or they can travel intergalactically. That, there's a distinct possibility that Christopher Johnson can heal our main character.
Yeah.
So, but it's just like they let your imagination kind of take off where it's still kind of a hopeless situation for everyone, like it has been for the last 20 years. There's really no changing this. It's too run by the MNU or whatever it's called in the government and stuff. And I would imagine on a global scale, I would imagine this is definitely not isolated to South Africa. I imagine every government is participating in the oppression of the prawn.
You think so?
Yeah, totally.
Did you think this movie was too long? Were there any pacing issues?
I don't feel like there was a lot of wasted time, though. Okay. If anything, we probably could have spent more time with the prawns.
Even with him running away?
Yeah, probably. It would have been a better hook if we did, I think, have that kind of introductory documentary style little chunk at the very beginning. So you have these weird kind of preconceived notions of who our main character is. I think that would have helped better with a little bit more of a proper hook, because the segregating the alienation of the aliens is sort of obvious, and so, but it's nice because it's good storytelling, or at least a good platform for good storytelling, and then introducing that our strange, bureaucratic, inept guy in the fold without us actually seeing who he is and his mannerisms would have been a little better.
Before we talk about the two endings, both what happens with Christopher Johnson and what happens with Wickes, I do also really like the scene where everyone started cheering when the spaceship took off. I don't know if there was a message there that I wasn't getting, but I just absolutely loved that everyone was going wild and just so happy that the spaceship finally moved 20 years later. There's got to be something there.
Yeah, it's a very ridiculous little bit. I like that a lot too.
Yeah, I mean, I know this movie thematically explores xenophobia, so it would make sense for these xenophobes to be cheering when the spaceship is gone, but I don't know. It's just really funny.
Yeah, and I guess it maintains that mood all the way through those documentary style kind of voyeuristic found footage bits we get, because they're all a little ridiculous and funny. So, because the one bit that sticks out to me the most is that guy saying, they're aliens. If they were from Earth, we wouldn't have such a big problem with them.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of thing. It's just like, well, that's hilarious because, yeah, you would. Everyone does. So I guess that's probably the big ironic kind of message in the whole film, actually, is that one line. And that way there's a little bit of a satire here, I guess, through the documentary specific bits. But other than that, it tries to stay pretty natural, I guess. I think that's inherently due to its semi found footage techniques, because it tries to really ground itself through whatever different kind of means that might be.
I like that a lot.
So what do you think of our sort of bittersweet ending? It's like 1% sweet, 99% bitter, I guess.
I know the first time I watched this movie, I cried when Christopher Johnson, I keep wanting to say Christopher Columbus for some reason, but when Christopher Johnson left with his kid, I remember that just breaking my heart. And I guess I teared up a little bit here, but I didn't cry. No tears fully came out, but it was very heart-wrenching the first time around. And the scene where his wife, Wickes' wife, finds the metal flower, it's from him. So that wasn't as sad, but that was still pretty sad. I don't know if it was completely necessary for them to, after that, show us what looks like Wickes in a prawn form messing with a flower. I guess they're telling us like he's still alive, he's still here, he's still making handcrafted things for his wife, and he still has some of his humanity left. So I like that. And it feels like a big setup for a sequel too.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm wondering if they did that because they don't feel like they really set it up in the beginning that he would do that, which I can't remember them setting it up at all, to be honest.
What?
That he's he makes little crafts.
Yes. Remember, she sits on one of his projects, and then she tells us that he's always leaving around these things, and then she shows us one that she sat on because he left it on the couch to surprise her with, but she didn't think about it, so she just sat on it, and like she shows the camera when she's being interviewed.
Yeah, it's kind of shitty setup then, because we should have had some interstitial kind of setup with Chris, or with our main character making something then. I feel like it's kind of lost in how chaotic the movie is. The movie's jarring to watch. The editing is, kind of nuts. If you recently had a vertigo attack, you may not want to watch this movie.
That's a little bit true. Yeah, I don't think it was completely lacking, the setup. But yeah, maybe we could have had him be a little bit more creative in some scenes.
And it's obvious where you do it, he would make something for the little prawn.
Yeah. That was lost too, a little bit of that relationship with them too. Because the little boy, the little prawn, really liked him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the dad told us.
Yeah. And that could have helped.
Yeah, they could have played
solidify that. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Totally. Yeah, so I forgot about that. I remember that now, you saying that. And that would have helped it's what I'm saying is if we could have seen all of Wickus's setup as a character, even if it was a lie, a lot of the setup, all in, a solid 5, 6, 7 minutes with those interviews of who this character is. We see his sweet side, we see the conspiratorial side, we see the straight up lies, we see, what he was like at work and everything, his gentleness, his ineptness, all in one go instead of bits and pieces. It would have been, I think, a little bit better of a character build up, a character setup, I should say.
Yeah.
And I think that would have helped me. I mean, I'm not gonna say like this movie more, but it definitely would help me earlier on. I didn't have to. I don't know. I guess it was a little annoying that they're saying weird things about this character that we already know that what they're saying is not true, or it's just whatever. And it's just like, I don't know. It's bizarre. I wish we could have had some time between knowing it's not true and them saying it.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would definitely help build some of that suspense of who this character is. Why should we even care that he's turning into a prawn?
Yeah, and allow you to connect with him.
Yeah.
It's so easy to look over the documentary little bits because they happen so quick, for one, and when we see him, he's just kind of this corporate face, political face, who gets his lucky break through nepotism and then, has kind of a moment of resignation when he realizes that these are people too, kind of, in a way,
Yeah.
So I don't know, it's a little frustrating that potential was there, it just wasn't edited together in the right way. And I saw that this movie was nominated for an Oscar for editing and a couple others. I just thought that was really kind of bizarre. It was also nominated for Best Picture in 2010, which is also, I think, kind of bizarre, but it was not a great year that year I saw.
So you're telling me the ending where he leaves the wife, that metal flower, didn't hit quite as powerful as you think it could have?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I liked it, and I like I guess it's a little melodramatic for us to get a shot back of that, him transformed, and he's on like a little garbage mound making a garbage flower. It's a little melodramatic. I like it and everything, but I feel like it could have hit a little harder if they allowed that connection to really form around that character. And I like I really like I said earlier, I guess, I like the hopelessness. I don't know, it's a really gentle hopelessness kind of delivered in this movie. It doesn't feel like it's that dire, but it kind of is for these guys, for the prawns. You know what I mean? Like they managed to capture that in not such a gross way, that the way they're about to be treated here over the next few months, they're going to be ripped out of their houses. Many prawns are probably about to die, taken to this new place.
Yeah, I don't agree with you on the gentleness, especially after seeing the lab and seeing what they've been doing to them. And just, I don't know. I wouldn't call it a gentle hopelessness. But I guess I also wouldn't call it a harsh one. So, yeah. I don't know.
It's still hopeless.
It's still
for the prawns, for sure. And for our main character. Yeah, all in all, I was surprised that this was actually pretty good. I'm not going to lie. Because it's one of the more favored so-called found footage films. And, guess what else is? Blair Witch. Blair Witch is a favored found footage film, and that film sucks. The original one.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. So, it's just, it is what it is. But this one's all right. I was pleasantly surprised. That's always nice. I try to keep my expectations basically zero, so I can always be
gently surprised.
Gently surprised. Yeah, man. Thank you for watching this film with me.
You're welcome. Yeah, I did see that someone gave this movie a 1-star review.
Of course.
Only because there wasn't a sequel. I thought that was funny.
Yeah, that's one of those funny things where I get it. Part of me gets it. I know it's maybe a hard thing to even get, but I'm halfway there in critiquing something for what it's not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but they say how much they love the film and how great it was, but why didn't he make a sequel? It was a lost opportunity, and he didn't take advantage of what he had, and blah, 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 blah. And they gave it a 1-star.
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of setup for a sequel, to be honest. We didn't get any character. There's no grand situation happening.
Yeah, there's enough of a setup that a sequel would make sense. Christopher Johnson coming back to who knows what, maybe.
I would imagine it would be like several generations in the future.
That's what I'm
saying.
saying.
Not Christopher Johnson, but maybe his kids' kids or something like that.
Okay.
So it's like a sequel, but not really.
Yeah.
It just takes place 100 years, 200 years after.
Or maybe he crashes and I don't know.
On a different planet?
Yeah.
Let's see that one. That's fine too. That'd be something else.
Or he has to come back to Earth because he didn't get enough fuel. I don't know, like, sure, I could see the sequel potential here.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was very silly to give a movie a movie you obviously liked and you appreciated, give it a 1-star just for what it's like they didn't understand the assignment of a review of a film.
Yeah, this is a problem a lot of people face. There's no integrity in the rating system for a lot of folks. They don't have any integrity. They don't care about what it represents. They don't care about the psychological effect that it might have. They're just living in their own world. We need a little bit more of a collective thought here, and no one gives a shit.
Well, luckily they're not, a writer for any kind of movie magazine or website. I don't know what they're called these days.
Some outlet. All right, man. Well, thank you for bringing this movie up and watching with me and covering it here today. I hope you had a fun time.
You're welcome. I'm glad you watched this with me.
All right, man. What do you have a budget guess for me today?
Yeah, I sure do. My budget guess is $15 million. I had no clue. And now, I guess knowing that some of these weren't sets that were built from scratch, yeah, that didn't help.
Yeah, because you still have the hospital scenes and stuff like that. And it's worth noting that Peter Jackson is involved. He's a high-profile, very expensive dude.
Oh.
He's the guy who did your King Kong film.
Yeah.
In the Lord of the Rings films.
I know. I guess I didn't know he was an expensive dude.
Well, he can ask for a lot of money, in other words.
Why is he asking for a lot of money?
Well, I guess he might need it.
Shit. All right. Well, I guess now you're making me feel like I went too low.
Yeah, you went too low. It says here that it was $30 million.
Oh.
That's pretty expensive.
Huh.
Especially he's coming from someone it's their first movie. But he's worked with Peter Jackson. I wonder what that connection was. I wonder how they met each other.
Yeah.
That's a good get for Neil here. But yeah, very nice. It went on to make, it says here, about $210 million. So big hit.
Whoa.
Not quite that awesome prime time, 10 times budget number, but very good, very good. It also makes you kind of wonder, like, I'm kind of surprised there isn't a sequel.
Yeah. He doesn't really do sequels, though, does he?
Neil?
Yeah, Mr. Blomkamp.
He hasn't done much, actually. He's done District 9, 2009, Elysium, 2013, Chappie, 2015, Demonic, 21, Gran Turismo, 23. And then some commercials and short films throughout the years.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, good for them. They made money. And this sounds like it was very popular.
Yeah, like I said, it was nominated for a few Oscars too, and that includes Best Picture, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Visual Effects, and Best Film Editing. So, all right. That's... I don't know what everything was. I think Avatar came out that year too, so I'm sure that won Best Visual Effects. The first Avatar.
The Blue People?
Mm-hmm. That came out in 2009 too.
Oh.
I know, right? But yeah, thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Film Science. Hopefully you took something away from this. Remember, you can join us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for brand new episodes over on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Patreon, Pandora, all the goods.
All the goods.
But until next time, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Filmsteins. Thanks for tuning in and joining us on our cinematic journey. We hope you enjoyed our discussion and gained some new insights and perspectives on the world of movies. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform, especially Patreon at patreon.com/Filmsteins. And follow us on social media for more film-related content. We love hearing from our listeners, so if you have any feedback, suggestions, movie recommendations, or book recommendations, please feel free to reach out to us. Until next time, keep watching and keep loving the magic of movies. This is the Filmsteins signing off.